It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Before we start off, may I just have a show of hands of those who are from industry? Those who are from academia? Awesome. All right. There is a disruption that I actually wanted to talk to you about. What has been said before me is really exciting, but that's what we want to prepare you for. So, talking about the digital disruption, future of work, jobs, and skills is actually being impacted very intensively by these 5 factors. Much has been already said, so I'm not going to rework this, but what I would like to leave with you is what worked before for us as faculty is not going to work for us as the way forward. The scenario is such that the last few years, there has been a change which is actively happening in the global scenarios. So the return of geopolitics, the power of disruptive technologies are reshaping, and what I would like to do is how do we reinvent the learning ecosystem itself? So I'm going to put a blueprint of action for us to take away today, supported by formal and non-formal players, with also great support from a major stakeholder, which will be government, both central as well as state. So one of the factors that we have left with is that we were talking about the IT industry, which actually built Brand India, supported by academic institutions like yourself. Today we stand tall about 4 million direct employees and about 20 million indirect employees from this industry. The ITIS industry now is started about 26 years ago and owns about 96% of the human resource and 95% of the revenues. There is an ecosystem out here in India, about 16,000 companies, of which 2,500 plus are members of this association of IT service and product companies. Having said this, we were catering over the last few years to a scale model. That's the first statement. But no more are we looking for scale in the ecosystem of human resource. On the other hand, we're looking for machines now are actually working, co-workers with us humans. So how is it that man and machine can work together to greater efficiency as well as for greater work effort? We found that the competition will be from emerging markets, and you will find that robos also will be your competitors. You've seen that happening. This has led to a new scenario. You're polarizing work where people with extraordinary skills will be extraordinarily high-end paid and those with repetitive job roles will be lowly paid. The another part is with the return of geopolitics. The fact that India thought that having a human resource which is highly skilled will be a currency for global mobility is not there anymore. So because of protectionism and because of the lack of scale, it leads only to 2 things, that educational institutions like yourselves are not creating people just for being employed, but would like to focus on job creation to yourself. So how can you become a part of enterprise wherein which together we are able to offer a new ecosystem for the gig economy? What will be the new age workforce and what will be the new types of work? Full-time workers working for many years, thinking that 18 to 20 years of education will actually fuel a lifetime of work for you is out of the table. Full-time work is no more. There are no company loyalties anymore. Work is going to be parceled, split, and accomplished by a large number of people who are globally distributed. So sitting here in any one of your colleges, a student could be working for a couple of hours for Korea, another few hours in Canada, somewhere else in Coimbatore. Time, where you want to work, how many hours you want to work, which place you will want to work is yours to decide. So customization of the ability to create an impact, whether it's independent entrepreneurship or it's actually a service provided or a creation of a product, is left to the individual. So as an educational institution, how is it that you are going to be able to enable this new genre of requirement for this country today? So that's going to be the topic which I'm going to talk. How is it that you as educational institutions will respond? So this new co-working hubs are going to be a product. I would like you to focus, and I will give you this blueprint today, and I hope MHRD and all the other ministries will be able to make this a reality. Much talk is up and about, but industry is already working and many state governments are facilitating this. A co-working hub will be where you as an academic institution will be an extension of a company. People and students from your centers and you as faculty will also own royalty and IP rights to products which you, with your students or independently, have actually nurtured. So let's take this forward. It's been said earlier also that this is a situation, so I'm not going to dwell upon it. New jobs, jobs that you have not even thought about, are going to be prevailing. But when you talk of 9% of 600 million people, that's a lot of numbers. Now, the disruptive technologies is one area that we'd like to focus on. We've identified, of course, with cybersecurity being an overlay, it's in the background, it's just not disappeared, and I will give you a snapshot of that. These are the 8 new technologies that are really going to create a huge disruption. Big data analytics and artificial intelligence. Big data analytics will be subsumed by AI in a few years. Machine learning, deep learning, all of that is going to be part of it. Of course, you will have robotic process automation, which will actually integrate with every other sector. I'll do a deep dive. 3D printing or additive manufacturing, I'll talk about it with you. Cloud computing and social, mobile, media, etc. is already there. But there's going to be a power in augmented and virtual reality, and especially it's going to impact you as educational institutions, wherein you could use that as an enabler, which means yourselves as teachers, coaches, or principals, or people who are at leadership positions, educational institutions, you too need to be relevant. So how is it that we're going to do that? Before I end this part, we have identified around about 55 core job roles, and the jobs, these will actually interact with other industry sectors, will be humongous. So when you are teaching something in your institution, creation of awareness of the possibilities of interaction, cross-pollinating with other industry sectors, using use cases and case studies becomes critical, because that's where the job creation is going to happen. So we are left with about 51 jobs and 71 overall, but there's also in other areas like blockchain, and we have now, of course, moved from graphical processing units to further into terabytes, TPUs. And then, of course, I would love to have some talk with nanosensors and quantum cryptography, and of course, subvocal recognition, semantic web. As I said before me, it's going to be a time where you don't really have to know languages, because while you speak, you can be converted to different languages which you are familiar with, so that the understanding increases, and hence the possibility of extrapolating that into job creation becomes high. Having said this, what's the legacy in India? This industry body for the last 26 years basically was the IT-enabled services had 4 major pillars: IT services, business process management, engineering and R&D, and software and product development. Under that, there were multiple occupations, some of them like data science and application development and deployment and testing and cybersecurity. And of course, you have finance and accounting and CRM, product design and software development products, which is all there. This is information available on the website. Many of you have responded to these requirements through various engineering and non-engineering streams. So your electrical, EEE, then you have chemical engineering, civil, mechanical engineering, all of these are actually available. Of course, your BCom, BBA, BSc, all of them respond to facets of this. But the new age requirement is we too have joined this and clubbed it as services and products. You just need not know mechanical tools, electronic tools, or software tools. We need an integrated product development where everything goes agile, and then you can apply it either in circuit branches or not circuit branches. So the fact is, how is it that you are going to change the curriculum? How is it that we as a Sector School Council under the National Association of Software and Service Companies for IT/ITES can support you? The reason why this industry sector is critical, because it will encompass every other sector. So you see that the latest technologies we're talking about will actually cover the whole gamut of these requirements. But there will be a legacy in India because of the lack of connectivity, and these job roles in the domestic market is not going away. So how much of that is within, and what is it that is not going away, and what is it that's going to remain? Let us explore. The biggest thing is, it was also talked to one of the speakers before me, that is equity and access. It has been a dream whether every Indian, irrespective of his geographical positioning in the country, whether it's in a state, which is a village, or in the city, or of his economic background, can get the quality that he or she dreams and desires. It's happening. If you look at these numbers, they're astounding. 431 million internet subscribers, and the numbers are growing. 241 social media users, 200 million WhatsApp subscribers, 137 million e-commerce users, 10.4 billion Square users of digital payment transactions, 1.19 billion with unique biometric Aadhaar numbers, 731 million from 55.8 million Aadhaar-linked bank accounts, 80.6 million e-government transactions, e-commerce, common service centers, and of course 13.4 billion Aadhaar authentication. The country is connecting. Where are you? Each of you as educational organizations are still working in silos. Your programs of learning are still far below par. It has to be able to be connected, so let's use the ecosystem, and every one of this will triple in the next 3 to 4 years, will be second largest shortly by 2020, and by 2030 will be the most populous and most connected country in the world. What is it that you can utilize? Because therefore, what you have is knowledge, and what you actually can take forth is going to be extraordinarily important, because you are basically architecting the future of India. So if you look at this McKinsey report, like it's been mentioned before, every 5 years we bring out one, and NASSCOM has brought and said, India is poised to be $1 trillion economy by 2025. In the $1 trillion economy, where is the focus of education and skills? So you will see that about 200, if you look at that bar which is down here, about 250 billion will still come from the existing legacy job roles. So there's no worries for where you are already going. But you're going to have another 55 billion coming from telecom services. Electronics and manufacturing will be about 130, digital payments, and new emerging digital ecosystem will be about 52%. That orange column, if I break it up, you will see that the Indian education stack, online talent platforms, will itself contribute to about $120 billion. That means all of you are going digital. Are you as an individual faculty prepared to actually address this revolution? It's called the fourth industrial revolution for no other reason. But the fact is, your position itself, if it's irrelevant, you cannot spawn a new requirement for this country. So today's meeting is so critical, not because it's just a creation of awareness, but we come with a package of inclusion, an action plan that has to be, without exclusion, concluded in the next 3 years, and that continues as a cycle. Many of you have been actually delivering programs of learning for freshers and students. None of you are thinking of the reskilling. This 4 million direct employees in our industry bracket itself, 30 to 35% need to be reskilled in these new technologies. Otherwise, they're going home. Where do they skill? Where do they learn? We do think like community colleges, you as colleges of learning must also be enabled to do this, which means your competency must rise above just dispersing knowledge, but being able to use it to create and be able to make a process where industry can benefit. And that's where the co-hubs can come between educational systems like yourself and the industry. So I'll not belabor this, I'll leave this with you so that you can look at it, because it's important, because you need to actually restructure and rejig your program of learning. Having said this, these technologies that we have will not exclude any other industry sector. So if I look at big data and AI, and even look at RPA, it'll actually impact healthcare, life sciences. You have big data and analytics with basically AI, as well as IoT linking with BFSI, retail, healthcare, automotive, precision agriculture, manufacturing, and the list goes on. Every one of the 40 sector skill councils identified as growth sectors, creating jobs for about 350 million people by 2030 in India, will be impacted by these technologies. But in your educational programs, look at your syllabus and your curriculum. None of them talk of use cases in any of this. Your exam papers, which actually drive the pedagogical learning, does not include any of this. As it's spoken earlier on, where are the marks for critical thinking, attention to detail, learning ability, working in your teams? Most of the marks we've seen in your programs for learning are concentrated in the lower order thinking in Bloom's taxonomy. It is not required. That information is available. Use technology in your classes. 75% of the information that you ask of students is in written, handwritten content. It has to be online. So we need to have MHRD's intervention to drive basically and say there has to be a new way of delivery, a new way of evaluation, because India cannot take these steps of evolution. We have to leapfrog. Like you had the old black phones and you standing in queue to actually do an STD phone call for about $75. We didn't wait for every household to do that. We leapfrogged into the cell phone and to the mobile era. We need to do the same with education. So it is important, just not you getting policy put upon you and you reluctantly following it. It's for you to innovate and say, as a university, as a college, you have the right to create good, useful purposes and vehicles of innovation. Having said this, this disruption is creating a lot of common areas, and I'm just going to leave this with you and move on. So some of the important spaces, just to bring home to you, some of them have already got new ideas on where it's going to go. So what has been and what will be, you had huge digital oil fields now manned by about 4 or 5 people. There were about 10,000 to 20,000 people. You have autonomous mines now where about 50, 60,000 people worked in coal mines, and now it's just automated totally. You have Boeing Digital Services, everything was done through certain machines, but now it's all totally automated. If I were to look at the transportation taxi limo drivers, India has about 1.2 million of them. They won't be needed if you go driverless. Gas station parking lots, delivery drivers, mail delivery, FedEx, UPS, they're all gone. So what do we need? Delivery dispatchers, traffic monitoring, automated traffic designers, driverless ride experience people, driverless operating system engineers, emergency crews when things go wrong. Where is our educational program of engineering responding to these requirements? From here, if I take it to basically looking at the bots, even fishermen will go away, miners, farmers, human inspectors, even soldiers has been told. So what is it that we require? So the RPA comes to play, robot designers, dispatchers, therapists, 3D printing designers, material science. We have 3D printing homes. Why do we have to use concrete anymore? There is no sand, there is no water available. Look at the mega pictures. So we need to have new materials which will actually deliver, which are smart, which can be customized to your requirements, which will enable a different ecosystem. Look at the additive as we have spoken. You can 3D print your clothing, you can 3D print your body parts which are being print. It'll come to a slide where I can actually 3D print programming T cells or your stem cells to basically have a fully functional liver or a kidney. The amazing progress that is happening. You will have cell phones or nanosensors which will be as small as a tiny little speck which can be integrated into your biological system that can actually communicate and repair. We can program your T cells to actually talk to your cancerous cells so as to not to be cancerous. So it's going to be as easy in the healthcare system. You walk into a hospital where actually you're diagnosed, and your diagnosis will basically lead to requirements on the, and if you have collaborative research on this, basically the pharmaceutical industry will be hugely benefited, where in which you can actually have drugs which are much cheaper, because it's about 1/10 of the time for me to bring this out to market. These are all the requirements of technology which will actually create a difference and make life in the new age absolutely important. But this does not happen overnight. It starts from your educational programs of learning and teaching that you want to actually imbibe. Having said this, even in the power industry, we think that every home shortly will have its own generator, either through the wind or solar power, and you can generate power in your home to use for yourself, and the rest could be actually passed on to the grid. That's another revenue making and Uberization of power that's going to come. Having said all of that, you will also see that there will be in the agriculture and precision agricultural space, DNA warehousing and splicing. Basically now, this has been done in quinoa, which is a rice grain, which is very handy. It's also available in our ragi and in our malts that we have in India. I'm going to leave these for you to read, to basically communicate with, as I see, NASSCOM after this program, and through ICT Academy to see how we can support you integrating this into your program of learning. Because if you do this through the Sector Skill Council, it has a credit equivalence. 15 hours of learning in your existing program is equivalent to the same number of credits. We also have 20% under AICT, which is an online program, also having credits made available. We are going to show you how we're creating an aggregator marketplace. So all this information and learning tools will be available, which you can integrate into your system straight away. Having said this, I would like to, many of us say, oh, these technologies, in many boardrooms I've heard, these are for the high flyers. It does not impact India. It does not impact the last mile. So I'd like to give you a little story called the Internet of Cows. Anyone heard of it? Somebody would like to talk on this with me? All right. Basically, if you have a few people who are actually having cows where they actually want to increase the quality as well as the quantity of the milk produced, we actually analyzed this. And this was a small group in Haryana also that made this experiment. So we looked at the genomics, and then we looked at when these cows mate, what they eat, and then when do they sleep, what type of food they eat, when they poop. Everything was analyzed. It's actually a huge exercise on big data. This big data was then warehoused appropriately, and you put tools like R and high-end analytical tools and predicted what could be the outcome and then tried to improve it. When we did this, we found that some of the top markets in the world, is the Brazilian market, produces 400 times the amount of milk and the quality is much better. And then we studied further and said, what did they do that we did not do in India? And one of the very surprising facts is that we found that their best bulls come from Ongole in Andhra Pradesh and the Gir breed cows from Gujarat. People, you have the quality here. We have the people. But we find those students that come from your colleges go and create IP in countries far away because there is an ecosystem. The humble support required request from Niti Aayog and MHRD saying that we need the policy and the innovation in governance of educational programs to be more relevant, but we need it now. And with their support, I would require the universities and colleges not to resist. The fact is, if you're going to resist, industry will find another way of making the business happen. The relevance of you as individual teachers itself is questioned now. So one of the things is I'm saying, education. Teachers, master trainers, professor, lab attendants. Do we need them? The question is, I need coaches. I need course designers which can customize and curate courses. I need learning camps. I need simulators for practicals, and definitely e-labs. Where are you there? So this is not just rejigging the education system, but your relevance and my relevance as a teacher, as somebody who is a change agent. We need to collaborate to work together. So how do we do this? The biggest problem today is with this technology that is actually removing jobs of one, or I could just say transforming into another format. We need fast knowledge. So 3-year and 4-year programs in your PGs, no use to us. By the time you take somebody for 3 years, however hard and relevant you are, technology is changing every 6 months. You're outdated. So many of our member companies and IBM and HCL, even Accenture are saying, 12th class, good enough. Let us go into the skilling program. But if we do that, how are you going to actually respond to it? Triple ITs with the help of MHRD were launched for this very purpose of innovation, where you look at technology integrating with local requirements to make it more relevant. It didn't happen. They went into this mass placement program. There are no jobs, people. Jobs have to be created. Those who are there have to be retrained. So there's no place for more jobs to come in unless it's in the high-tech space. You would have found that many of us are not hiring in the numbers that you used to hire before. But it's not because we don't need the numbers, but we need different skill sets. So that's the reason for me to actually be here in front of you to say, how can we work together? Having said this, if I need to actually educate so many, I have also huge mentors required, 18 million mentors globally required. And the number and the core competency of ICT is to create mentors for the new age. I need that. So these mentors are people who know industry applications, who can actually make sense of the knowledge to be able to be just not creating an employment opportunity, but also create jobs. In the domestic market, look around you, the waste disposal, the requirements that are right around you are so huge. It's just an idea and an opportunity, but knowing these skills is so critical, because without them, you don't have the ideas on how to actually respond to the markets. Having said this, so looking for a virtual trainer for fast knowledge transfer. Because this is remembered, because the higher knowledge dimensions have to happen, virtual reality training, simulators I need, it's for dangerous opportunities of work labs, I can use it safely. It's greater engagement and assessments can be more appropriate. We have found in the programs like SWAYAM, NPTEL, etc., 75 to 85%, even higher than that, actually disengage. They don't complete the course. You need to have it more innovative, rewards and awards, and customization to the requirements of an individual is critical. Having said that, so if you have design thinking, application services, productization, and entrepreneurship as the new funder for universities and colleges, we have a business going, people. The requirement is, when somebody actually wants to do a job, he's aspirational. You need to discover what are the opportunities and skills, knowledge, then languages that are required for this particular job before you go into a process of teaching this individual. Because not everybody is on the same level. So once you discover the job, we need to curate the content which is already out there to actually respond to the requirement, and stimulus is forwarded to this individual to learn. Then you have this customized learning path. We evaluate and assess to the requirements again of industry. Knowledge is out there. We don't need to ask what, explain, design. We need to say, can you problem solve? And problem solving does not have one solution. It has multiple scenarios. So logical sequential thinking is what we evaluate. How do I put that together in your exam papers? Let's talk together on this. Having said that, we of course look to an aggregation of certifications that are already there, or to look at a proctored environment where we can have an overall scenario saying this university, the Ministry of IT, MHRD, and the Sector Skill Council with the Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship certify that this individual is competent for this particular job. But that competency lasts for a period until the next wave comes in. Having said this, what is it that we can do? I'm giving you one example of big data analytics and AI. So what did we do is, when we saw that big data analytics, if you take it as a subject and we saw what was being taught in colleges, what it didn't talk to us as industry was, it impacts healthcare, retail, manufacturing, telecom, cybersecurity, finance, and we saw the importance of it right across the globe. Having said this one, we did a detailed deep dive. What we did is we prepared qualification packs or job roles. We prepared standards. This is again using analytics, and then we use special interest groups where industry comes together, and if you are there, please join us, and faculty will be our next wave, where we'll talk to you and say, this is the job role. These are the tasks that are done, the function or the key purpose, then the tasks within. And these tasks, we therefore look at software, languages, and platforms that are required. So if I were to look at something like data scientist, I need somebody to go to big ML, statistical, analytical models, Java, Python, Scala, Apache, then you have JS Angular, then I need Spark, Fume. When I went to universities and colleges, they said, I'm an electronics engineer. I said, do you know this? He says, no, we were never taught. So I said, where is the professor in the college and the university? Where are you? Because it's not there. If it's not there, what happens is when you come to industry, we are not going to be sitting and retraining. We don't have it. We ourselves are transforming. So we do need the universities and colleges to be extensions of industry to basically add this value. So what we want professors from universities, colleges, because you have deep knowledge, is to say, if I have this particular task, what is the performance criteria or the learning outcomes that each one of those tasks must actually have to achieve? Then you prepare your lessons of learning, create this activities that enable somebody to be proficient and to actually become competent. So having done this, we are actually looking at what are the existing programs of learning that are already there that we can collaborate. So the SWAYAM sir needs to actually be talked to Professor Sahasrabudhi. It's open courseware, which is freely available. But it needs to actually have enough AI built into it to customize it to requirement. And if I were to get the best from, say, MIT, or if I get it from Stanford, or to get it from Johns Hopkins, or if I need to get it from the Coursera, Udacity, Simply Learn, we have the lynda.com, plural sites, etc., it's a subscription model. Nothing comes free. So can we build in a subscription model, firewall the existing part of SWAYAM, and make that content available to all the universities and colleges? So we made that question happen. We're still waiting for answers, but ahead of time, we have moved. Let me tell you how. So we did some analysis, says out of those job roles in the big data analytics space, what are the hot areas? So 41% of global players requested said data science. Then you have data architect and solution architect. So can we have programs of learning and just not say electrical engineering, civil or chemical? All those get incorporated and collaborated. We have a data science program. Can we have technology-enabled programs of learning, which actually will then go, a data scientist wants to go into precision agriculture, that's his open elective. He wants to go into the aeronautics space, that's another open elective. So we need to rejig the whole educational system. And this does not start people from the higher education, it starts from school. Your O-levels and A-levels must have design thinking, cyber, additive manufacturing as an integral part of the programs of learning. For this, it's important that there is fiber, there is bandwidth, and there are systems to respond. That will get the equality going around. So in the next wave of NMICT, I hope that will come into picture, where every university will have a digital component. Do not invest in in the labs or even in buildings. We want you to invest on virtual universities which will be interconnected, and everyone has an opportunity through various devices to be able to access anytime, anywhere, an education that makes them actually relevant to the future. Having said this, how do you take the existing program of learning into your universities and colleges? So we studied the 4-year engineering program. Many of our courses, if I take you an analytics or I can take a cybersecurity like a pen tester program, it's a 600-hour program. So we broke it up into semesters. So you have every semester 50 hours of face-to-face learning. Then you have collaborative lab learning, another few hours. And then we do 200 to 300 hours on online cloud. Every student needs to do this. If it's not, the way we are teaching itself is irrelevant. It does not spawn the requirement for the new age future. Now, is this possible? Yes. Under MHRD, the BWalk program is there. Embrace it. It gives you a credit equivalence with an existing program of learning with the new age requirement where Sector Skill Council, industry bodies are interacting, bringing job roles. So you can integrate and interlace. Please embrace it. If you have problems, let us work with you. The another problem we find is the pass percentage in the universities and colleges is 33 or 35. For us, the minimum is 70. So the bar is raised. So rather than many of the professors and colleges saying, my students are failing in the industry program, raise the bar. Because even if they pass and get 100%, we don't have a job for them. The job comes with competency and excellence to be innovative, to think out of the box. It's not there for you to do something which is administrative or repetitive. That will be automated. So I need your support to basically drive this new India that we require. And it's a small start, but the message should go. And with the presence of ministry here, I hope it will take us miles ahead. This is just every one of the technologies and the occupations has a career lattice like this. I wonder how many of you actually go through it. It's freeware. It's put up by the Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship. So it tells you a career of 30 years. It starts off with the tax, and for each one, it cuts across entry level will be 0 to 2 years of experience. Then you have 2 plus to 10 and above. So we're looking for mentors who can actually address this. This has been looked at by SANS, ISACA, IC Square. Israel has gone head over heels in love with this diagram. We do all this from industry, but it has to be integrated into the program for you, and organizations like ICT Academy should perpetuate it. Doing something of your own because it's easy makes no sense. At the end of the day, it's the industry that hires, or set up your own company. You have to respond to a requirement. The outcome must match, otherwise it's still irrelevant. You might be doing something wonderful in big data, because when I talk to people, they say, oh, we are doing machine learning. But how relevant is that machine learning evolved student to the industry? Is he able to design something to make it effective in the domestic market, create jobs? No. Does he want to join with a company? The company says, this kid doesn't know what I want. So what is it that you want or they want is what the Sector Skill Council does. Bridge that gap. Once it's out there, we facilitate the learning program. So having done this sort of standards are out there in the market, modules are out there, but have we kept quiet? We have moved and compared this with Japan, Korea, Myanmar, then you have Vietnam, then we have also done it with Malaysia and Singapore, then Canada, EU, Australia, New Zealand, and then of course with the ONET in the US. So UK is all of them have said for the IT sector, the jobs identified are on par. So having done this, it gives you confidence that what you are integrating into your university system is not outdated, because every year these jobs get validated. So we need to have this partnership to make it more relevant. Having said this, we give out scores. This is over and above the scorecard which is given by NSDC, over and above the degree that you get, to tell you which part, which domain requirement is critical. But none of the jobs exclude teamwork, attention to detail, learning ability, problem solving. All those are very critical. But when you look back into an exam or a program of learning run at universities, there is no weightage for this. 33% weightage has to be given in par with the domains. So when we have modules with domain as well as with programs for teamwork, industry says equal weightage. Whereas I will get from industry, oh, they've done 5 days of soft skills. In the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you know, but what you can do with it. How do you deliver with the clients? How we work together? Because I have teams international. It's never sitting in one space, in one area, in your comfort zone. So how can you work? It doesn't matter if you're an IIT student or someone from a small background space. It doesn't make a difference. Attitude and the way you work, how you think out of the box, collaborate is critical. Weightage has to be there. So we give graded certificates. The government of India, along with them, with the ministry's logo and MSD, we give only if you pass and you don't fail. But we found that in the villages, in the districts, in the talukas, they have domestic requirement is not as high as international requirement. Our standard is international, but I can give you a gold certificate, a silver and a bronze, which gives you a moment of achievement, which feels that you can still work and be enabled. Having said this, there are existing programs of learning, foundation skills in IoT, foundation skills in integrated product development, foundation skills in construction heavy equipment, and foundation skills in IT and GPFS. Many of these programs are available with ICT Academy. If faculty, we are ready to actually train them using mentors from industry to help you learn and rejig your learning program. But subsequently, you have to move from knowing the foundation to the job-ready program. We found that though we are in this new age era, these foundation skills are still running hot. The reason being is there's a huge divide between urban and rural. They're not able to bridge it, so this is critical. But can the faculty deliver on their own? They're already extended, so we will basically make it available otherwise. So having said this, enabling the future of jobs and skills, NASSCOM has set up and will, with the Prime Minister's good offices, in February 19th in Hyderabad, basically open up the Future of Skills portal, wherein which you can actually go and look for a technology, get a job role that you like. You will find it endorsed by companies. Register, it does a diagnostic, it personalizes your learning and creates a pathway. Course details are available, then you study it, and as you go along, you can get certified. This is integratable into the university structure. MIT is also working with us on it, so all the NILET centers, the CDAC and other training providers will also be able to offer this on a blended program. Having said this, the major architectural design, which we hope will become this country's, the learning will be in the NSQF levels. It will be available for companies to reskill. Universities will offer both skilling and reskilling programs. Traditional trainers will skill and reskill, the MOOCs will be there. Altogether, we should be able to enable a new India. But as a university, we hope that you will set up IT or innovation hubs, wherein which you will interact with areas of importance with other industry sectors in your university or college, and make this a space where you can actually do job creation. Having said this, to end of the day, the new jobs and the old jobs are there. 1 million workers and 4 million entry-level workers need fast pace. So reskilling and the skilling imperative is absolutely critical for India. Let's work together. Thank you for the opportunity, ICT.